have on with us President CEO of Entergy Mississippi. That's Haley Fisackerly. Good morning, sir. It is a pleasure on the very first day of the month of July. How you doing?
Good morning, Paul. It is a great day. Appreciate this opportunity to visit with you.
Man, we've got so many things to start off. First of all, the rolling blackouts. We're not going to have any of those coming up this year. I had mine, what was it, on Friday? I was one of the ones that was about 1,000, and we had just a quick power outage. And then I get a note from Entergy saying it'll take about an hour, but 30 minutes later it was back. So I'm not sure what happened there.
Well, first of all, that wasn't a rolling blackout. I have to look and see what it was. It was probably we're dealing with a lot of dead trees from this last year's drought, so something of that nature. But no rolling blackouts planned, and we were all preparing to make sure those events don't happen.
You know, Haley, there are so many different things going on out there, and by the way, for you folks who don't realize the span of this, I think you guys cover about 460,000 customers in 45 counties. Yes. It's a big part of Mississippi. We have Hurricane Beryl number. It's coming in possibly this late weekend. Are we prepared for that?
Yes, we are, Paul. Our teams are preparing year-round. We are preparing for. We go through preparations for hurricane season. We prepare for weather during the winter months. And as you know, we're dealing with this year-round now. The thunderstorms we've been dealing with lately are packing winds equivalent to Cat 1 hurricanes lately with 80 and 100-mile-per-hour winds this past spring. So, yes, we're prepared. We're ready. We're tracking the storm. Currently doesn't appear to be a threat to our area, but anytime anything comes near the Gulf or in the Gulf, we're on our toes, ready to react and prepare.
And it's been so long. Yeah, this one looks like it might go to. They're saying Mexico, but there's some models said it could be as far east as western Texas, and hopefully we can get by this one. So we'll see what happens. And I think Chris is the next one out there, so it looks like it's going to be a busy year.
That's right.
And we've been
the Atlantic and the Caribbean and Gulf are all very hot, warm waters right now, so optimal conditions there. So, yes, we're on high alert this summer.
I don't think Entergy has, or any energy company, has been more part of the future of a state than now just about everything we're talking about, certainly now with the data centers coming in. I want to go back and ask you, and we'll talk about the data centers on the other side. But I was doing some other research, and I saw that in the old days when we were going to buy a vehicle, the last people we needed to have in the loop there to talk about was the energy company. But now if you're going to buy an EV, you guys are part of that also in some form or fashion. And I think you have something that's called the E-Tech program. And what is that about?
Well, first, yes, we're doing a lot to prepare for EVs. Now, it hasn't been a high adoption rate in Mississippi, but there are some. It is growing. Nissan, as you know, is doing a $500 million expansion to start producing EVs there. So we're in a partnership with them to start to help educate people. Tomorrow, in the city of Brandon, we'll be dedicating our second EV electric vehicle fast charging station. We're deploying those, Paul, to really educate us. So we're ready to help educate our customers who plan to put these chargers in and to better understand how they use those. So, yeah, a lot of that is happening as well.
Haley,
what was the second part of your question?
No, where are the chargers going to be?
I forget the exact address, but it's in downtown Brandon. We're trying different concepts. The first one we deployed last year was at the Renaissance Colony there on I-55. And this other one is more in the downtown Brandon area, just behind a lot of shops and restaurants. So people that have EVs like to be able to park and have an option to go eat lunch or shop or maybe meetings or something of that nature. So one of those are being deployed right now.
How about that? Are those, and forgive me, I have no idea what I'm talking about on this one. Are these permanent fixtures or are they going to be temporary fixtures?
Oh, they're permanent. So, for example, there's one in the Renaissance Colony right there near the
Okay.
Hyatt Hotel. This one is in a parking lot behind a strip of buildings just off the highway there in Brandon, and so they'll help us inform us. We're collecting data. I'm told that EV users track a lot of this information on social media, so they'll learn where these charging stations are. We have been really surprised at the volume of charges that are taking place on that. The one in Renaissance is very popular, right on I-55. People who are traveling from New Orleans to Memphis or vice versa or crisscross has been heavily used. So we're getting good, valuable information like that helps inform us.
What do you see in the industry, though, and I'm sure you follow this, from the very first time we had the first charger to now? Has that progress been to the point where we can look forward and say, hey, a year from now, 2 years from now, it's going to be even better?
Yes, the chargers are getting better. Also, we're seeing a lot of improvements in the battery themselves. They're newer as technology and research. They're starting to learn what are the minerals and materials in those batteries that can hold a charge quicker, hold more energy, and go longer. We're starting to see cars now released that are getting excess of 300 miles a charge. So you're seeing a lot of that. Where the first vehicles came out, they were less than 100 miles. So now huge progress made in those batteries, the technology, the materials used in that, and all that evolving. What I think you're going to see, though, is giving customers options. Some people, an electric car is just not going to work for them. But those that are traveling locally and stuff, it makes a lot of sense. So I think what I've learned about customers, we like options, we like choices, and they're definitely going to have that.
You know, the remarkable thing, and we've talked about this for a long time, is why didn't we make that jump? And I understand the Biden administration and all this, but why didn't we make the jump from the combustion to more defined or refined for the hybrid? And now we have a hybrid that is non-plug-in, like the original Prius, and we have that one that plugs in. Do you get any idea which are which when they're using this? Can you tell if it's a hybrid?
You know, I've been reading a lot about this and tracking it, and you're hitting the nail on the head, and that's what the manufacturers are finding, that a lot of consumers are interested in the hybrid, to have both. In fact, I think I saw where Toyota is reporting record sales there, and I read recently that Ford is going to be rolling out more of that type of choice with their popular F-150. So, yes, you're seeing that. If you look at a U.S. average, they say 70% of drivers drive less than 40 miles a day. So if you had a hybrid that could run off of an electric engine for that per day, but on the weekends, you're probably doing a lot longer driving. And so if you could see where all of a sudden the savings come in there and produce that. So I think that's something you're going to see more of. And of course, those that can do electric vehicles, that option's there for them.
Well, the big thing is the confidence and the security, too, because that's whether you can send your wife or your daughter or anybody else out there. The confidence that knows if you lose that charge, you have that backup as far as the gasoline engine. I mean, and that's
you're seeing a lot more. And you're seeing a lot more deployment. I was driving back with my son from college recently from Florida, and we pulled into that Buc-ee's right there on I-10 in Florida, just before the Alabama border. And we were filling up, and I looked over. I couldn't believe the number of electric vehicle charger stations they have been installed there. So, and the cars plugged up to them. So there's more and more options out there. And you know, most of those chargers now, if you stop, you can get 100 miles added to your battery in about 15 to 20 minutes. So some people aren't that patient. You know, a lot of people want to stop, fill up quickly, and keep rolling. But depends on the type of driver and how patient you are, I guess.
The very best place to get a charge is at Buc-ee's, because if you can't occupy yourself on the inside. The other part of this is kind of a political question, but we've known each other for a while. Have you had any meetings with the chairman of transportation of the House or Senate as far as the gasoline tax and the charging method?
We have not talked about the gasoline tax, but you know, we have been discussions with MDOT about chargers. You know, as you know, the Department of Energy is making large amounts of dollars available to each state for electrical vehicle infrastructure. So we've been in discussions with them. I think the state is set to get close to $50 million for installation of that. And so we've been having on and off conversations with them. We plan to work with them and reach with them to help them understand where those should go. You can't just put an electric, a fast charger, high voltage fast charger anywhere. They've got to be somewhere where you have enough capacity for that.
We've got a break coming up, and I want to ask you about that, and also how we supplement the gasoline tax, as you said, with more and more EVs showing up on the road. The other thing is your take on, and being a political guy too, on the Chevron doctrine and the Supreme Court. Any regulations that you see may affect as far as Entergy is concerned? Back with more coming up. With Haley Fisackerly, President and CEO of Entergy. We were talking about a multitude of different things. I did want to get into the Chevron situation. Supreme Court overturned the Chevron doctrine. It's been in there for a long time. Lots of things have happened. We're going to go over that a little bit more during the 8 o'clock hour. But from the energy sector, do you see any rules or regulations that maybe now would be challenged by the energy sector?
Well, Paul, our legal team is still reviewing that and taking a look at it, so I can't really say to that standpoint. But at least going forward on its surface, so this looks like a good thing. You know, sometimes we're dealing with agencies probably overstepping what the intent of the law was, and now Congress is going to have to be. I worked on Capitol Hill for a U.S. senator many years ago, Senator Cochran, you remember, so they're going to have to be very specific in making sure what their intent is going forward, so we have those proper interpretations. But for a heavily regulated industry like us, the frustrating part is when they create so much uncertainty, how do we plan? You know, we have to, it takes years and years to plan the reliability of a grid, make the investments. And the last thing we need to do is make investments that could end up being stranded because new environmental rules come down there and determine the investments we made null and void. So we need better clarity. So really don't know the full intent of that. Our team is reviewing that, but on its surface, it looks like a positive step going forward.
Haley, has there been more of that in the last 3.5 years as far as rules and regulations?
Well, you know, one thing you have seen, we joined, you saw the state of Mississippi join 26 other attorney generals in opposing the EPA's recent rules around carbon regulations around power plants and things of that nature, existing plants. Yeah. And so that's through an executive order. So those are things like that create concern, uncertainty. And, you know, when one does it and then they back off and then they do it again, we just need, what are the rules? How do we plan? And so we can do that. The yo-yoing makes it very hard to plan around that and creates a lot of uncertainty.
It's possibly the same thing as far as the exploration of fossil fuels. It's a long-term process as far as wildcatting all the way down to actually getting some oil out of the ground. So we understand that. The company went along with or worked with somebody called Next Era Energy on a solar plant. I think it was a big 4.5 gigawatt. Is that, as far as the solar, one of the things we always hear, that and wind, they're not storable. Has anything changed on that? Or in other words, is for all of us, is that something that you can use later and store up, or is it just on demand?
Yes, but first on the Next Era, what we announced there was a partnership with Next Era Energy, who's one of the largest developers of solar facilities, where we will partner with them and building and deploying up to 4,500 megawatts of solar facilities across our 4-state region. So it's a partnership there where they would build them and we eventually own those, and that's over time. Storage is making huge advancements. In fact, we're in negotiations right now here in the state of Mississippi with some solar developers on battery storage paired with solar facilities. So yes, we're seeing a lot of advancement in that as more and more have gotten to be done. Just like we were talking about the batteries getting better on electric vehicles, that same batteries are being used for electrical grid storage and reliability. So if you think about it, I've been on the show before and we talked about the solar facilities, and think about how the sun rises during the day, you have that bell curve. And so, but if it peaks at the midday and it starts to decline in the afternoon, our load tends to be our peak tends to be from 2 to 7. So battery would allow you to store that energy and have it up there in the shoulder part of your bell curve, if you will, and have it ready to deploy there. And we're starting to see cost improving in that area and the technology improving as well. But Paul, when it comes to this, Haley Barbour, when he was governor, we need an all-the-above strategy. We're going to need, with the insatiable appetite, with the growth opportunities we're seeing, with onshoring coming on back to the United States and manufacturing, data centers, everything, we have huge, great economic opportunity coming forward, and we need an all-of-the-above strategy. And so we're seeing new technologies around gas turbines. We'll be deploying some of those here going forward in the near future. We're excited about that. They're much more efficient, and they will have flexibility. Should there be carbon regulations coming down, they will have carbon capture capabilities. Lots of talk about new nuclear. So, and I'm very hopeful about that front in the near future.
Those gas, you're talking about natural gas?
Yes, sir. So they're new technologies. For example, we've already been building what we call combined cycle gas turbines. Our Tallow plant, the Hines plant, the Choctaw plant, these are very efficient. The newer technologies that are coming out have advancements in turbine blades that will allow for the flexibility to burn hydrogen. So if hydrogen were ever to become economic, you could blend that with natural gas to make it more efficient. Yeah. And should there be carbon regulations coming down or need to clean up those plants, there's ability to build carbon capture capability onto those facilities as well and still have natural gas facilities for dispatchable energy.
Have we had some restrictions from this administration as far as natural gas, or have they been lessened somewhat?
You know, there were lots of talks about that early on, but no, we're not seeing that now.
Good.
In fact, you're going to see a huge build out of natural gas as we've seen the electrification growth across the United States with more manufacturing coming back, data centers. We're seeing our sister companies down on the Gulf Coast in Louisiana and Texas are building huge LNG facilities for the export of that. We're seeing ammonia facilities, refining facilities, huge growth along the Gulf Coast area too that's driving that.
When they're both up and running, just a guesstimation, if they're both up and running, we're talking about the data centers, what would be the increase in needs from your company as far as data centers are concerned? 5%? 10%?
Well, Paul, it is significant. I'm not allowed to talk about a particular customer's usage, but it will be the largest single customer on the Entergy system. The good news is it phases in over 3 years. And so the first phase comes on first quarter of 25, the second phase, second quarter of 26, and the third phase in first quarter of 27. But it is a significant load, a great addition. And the thing that's so exciting about it, we haven't seen that type of growth, Paul, you know, and it's when you're not growing, it doesn't create the opportunities to make investments in new technologies. And what's happening is they're coming in and it's allowing us to deploy make upgrades to our transmission system that improves the ability to import energy and make them more resilient, robust. And we're building advanced generation and solar, which they'll be paying for to meet their needs. They have sustainability goals, and that creates an economies of scale that's going to benefit all of our customers and bring a huge tax base to the state of Mississippi. So we're excited about that.
Any of those batteries you were talking about a few moments ago that are constantly being improved, does the new Marshall plant up in Marshall County plant take, are they going to be building any of those there, or do you know?
I'm not real familiar, but I think that's being built for the transportation sector for large haul trucks and things of that. Yeah, I believe.
One more question to C-Smart text line, and numerous questions on this one. What is the cost? How do you base your cost at those charging stations?
So they're higher than what you would pay for kilowatt electricity at your home. I think the rate is north of 30 cents a kilowatt hour. So a residential customer right now pays around 13 cents a kilowatt hour. And the reason why that is, those people that are using that are paying not only for the energy from it, but the use of that facility to offset the cost. So non-users are not paying for it. So that's the way you set off that cost. And that is kind of an industry. As more and more of these get deployed and we understand more of them, you'll see more balancing out of what those rates will be. But right now it is a premium.
Anything in the 2024 legislative session that you guys want to talk about? Any bills that roll in? As a matter of fact, today is July 1st, so we are at the start of the fiscal year today.
Well, the most important thing is we're very appreciative of the governor and the Mississippi Legislature and the Public Service Commission working together on passing the legislation that brought AWS to town and the investments we need to make to serve that huge economic investment. That was the biggest activity we had this past year. So other than that, nothing significant of concern that we're tracking right now.
You've been out there lately?
I have. And in fact, they have the first site, the Madison Mega site up near Canton across the interstate from Nissan. And the second one is the Costas site down on county line in Highland County. They've already cleared all of that land, and we're starting to do work for the substations we've got to build there. They are moving fast.
They are moving fast. Always good, my man. Appreciate you very much. Very informative. Thanks, Haley.
Thanks, Paul. Happy 4th.
You got it. Haley Fisackerly, President and CEO of Entergy